Hello, everybody. Happy Monday. Happy Monday after spring ahead, spring forward. Happy Monday after losing an hour's sleep over the weekend. So I hope you are dealing okay, and I hope it's just a fabulous day. So today we're going to dive into day 10 of 31 days to a simpler menopause. And we are going to jump back into food stuff, and we're going to talk about the last of the macronutrients here, which is fat. So we talked about fiber, which is not in itself a macronutrient, but it's actually a carbohydrate, which is a macronutrient. And we talked about protein. Now we're going to talk about healthy fats. Day after tomorrow, on Wednesday, we'll be talking about putting balanced plates together. I'm going to give you this awesome tool that I use for myself with all my clients. It just makes it really easy to help you build your plate. But today I want to talk about this specific macronutrient because this is one that, kind of like carbohydrates, most women really struggle around. And that is because the diet industry has beaten it into our heads, has brainwashed us into believing that fat was bad, right? Fat is not, just like carbohydrates, fat is not the enemy. So if you have spent years avoiding it because your thought is that it's going to make you gain weight, because that's what we were told from the diet industry, it is time to rethink that. Because here is the thing, for your hormonal body, your menopause body, healthy fats are essential because they help with hormone production and hormone balance. They help with brain health and memory. They help with reducing inflammation and joint pain, and they help to keep you full and satisfied after meals and between meals. And here is a very important note, right? Healthy fats are extremely calorie dense. So they're going to only be about 5 to 10% of your plate. They're essential, but they don't need to overtake your meals. But before we dive into the best sources of healthy fats, we need to clear something up, the difference between what is considered a healthy fat and saturated fats, okay? So not all carbohydrates are created equal, not all fats are the same. And this is where there's a lot of confusion, especially with with keto and carnivore out there. So healthy, unsaturated fats, what you need more of. These fats help to support heart health, hormone production, brain function, and inflammation reduction. Hi, Cheryl. Right? So we're talking mono unsaturated fats. Those are found in avocados, nuts, olives. If you are someone who is eating oil, I'm not going to get into the oils debate here. We can talk about it on another day, but that would be your mono unsaturated fats. Then we're talking about polyunsaturated fats, right? These are omega-3s, omega-6s found in chia seeds, flax seeds, walnuts, hemp seeds, algae-based omega-3s, fish, right? Those are what's considered. Chocolate is in the healthy fats. What we want to not be eating a ton of, despite what keto and carnivore might tell you, is saturated fats. Now, there have been changes to the recommendations to what would be considered quote unquote healthy with saturated fats. When you're getting it in a whole food form, right? But a high intake of saturated fat is linked to increased risk of heart disease, insulin resistance, and hormonal imbalances, right? So saturated fats, this is what's found in butter, in lard, in cheese, in fatty cuts of meat, in coconut oil, in dairy products, right? So diets like keto and carnivore promote extreme amounts of saturated fat, which can negatively impact heart health, metabolism, and hormone function, especially for women in peri to post-menopause. Now, also, too much saturated fat can increase LDL, which is what's considered the bad cholesterol. Can raise inflammation and interfere with insulin sensitivity. On the LDL note, as menopause women, as women in any stage of menopause, once our estrogen levels decline, we have a tendency to notice a rise in LDL as it is. So the last thing you really want is something else that's adding to the increase of LDL, right? So here is what I want to talk about with keto and carnivore, because keto, it's been around for a while now. It just won't go away. And I know a lot of you might have had short-term success or some success prior to perimenopause, but a lot of women notice that once they're into any stage of menopause, that keto doesn't work like it used to. And I think whether you tried it or not, carnivore would do exactly the same thing. And here is why they don't work quite the same for women over 40 or in any stage of menopause. The high saturated fat equals a higher heart disease risk, right? Menopause, again, already can increase cardiovascular risk due to the decline in estrogen. And a diet overloaded with butter, with cheese, with fatty meats can worsen cholesterol levels and raise inflammation in the body. You know what inflammation in the body does? Pain. And it increases almost all of your menopause symptoms. Then we've got the fact that cortisol and stress response go up. Low carb diets, right? Raise cortisol, the stress hormone, because your body is like, where's my carbs? I want my carbs. And this can lead to more belly fat storage. Now, you talk to any woman in any stage of menopause, the last thing she wants is to be doing something that might actually increase belly fat storage in that area, right? And those of you in any stage of menopause, if you haven't realized it yet, with the decline in estrogen, you are far more sensitive to stress. So this, if what you're eating, the style of that you're eating, if that's increasing your stress too, that's just making everything worse. Then keto and carnivore can slow thyroid function and metabolism. Your thyroid, I talked about this when we talked about carbs the other day, your thyroid thrives on carbohydrates. Cutting them too low can cause a sluggish metabolism and lead to weight gain over time. Many women, most women, almost all the women I have ever talked to end up gaining weight back after stopping keto because their metabolism had adapted to that, and once they go back to eating normal, then they gain weight. Then we could look at long-term nutrient deficiencies. Keto and carnivore cut out fiber-rich foods, which impacts your gut health, your digestion, your estrogen detoxification, and huge amount of nutrients that are in all the different types of fiber-filled foods. I mean, your body is losing out on so much when you're not eating fruit and vegetables and whole grains. And gut health is so incredibly crucial in menopause. And even those of you, if you're not in menopause yet, your gut health is a defining factor in whether or not you are overall healthy. And these diets can completely disrupt what's going on in your gut. So if keto or carnivore, again, has worked for you in the short term, that does not mean it is good for you in the long-term health. Okay, so I had to say my piece there. Now that we've covered what to limit, let's focus on what we want to eat more of. So your plant-based healthy fats are going to be some of the best choices. Avocados, heart healthy, anti-inflammatory, nuts and seeds, almonds, walnuts, chia, flax, hemp, cashews, all of them, doesn't matter. Olives, and if you are eating oil, again, I'm not going to get into that debate, extra virgin olive oil. If you look at the Mediterranean diet, they use a lot of, this is what the people in the blue zones are eating, and they use a lot of olive oil there. But it supports hormone production and brain health. Now, coconut oil. We've gone through phases, trends in this world with coconut oil, but it is saturated fat. Like, let's not sugarcoat this. It can be useful in small amounts, but it's definitely not a good go-to fat for long-term health. Dark chocolate, yes, in moderation, is a good fat source. Omega-3 fats. Now, fish, if you're eating animal products, these are omega-3s. Fish are filled with tons of omega-3 fatty acids, and they are so good for our body. Also, in the plant world, you can get it from chia seeds and flax seeds, right? That supports brain health, brain and heart health. Walnuts are a great plant-based source of omega-3s. Then there's also algae-based omega-3 supplements, which is a great alternative for those who don't eat fish, right? Now, what to minimize? Processed vegetable oils, canola, soybean, corn oil, grapeseed oil, any of those. When I use oil when I cook, I use an avocado oil. That has been more of my go-to, and that's because it has a higher smoke point than olive oil. If I were going to make a salad dressing and I were going to do an oil base, which I don't do a lot of, I'll be honest anymore, I would use olive oil, right? But what to minimize again, fried foods, processed foods, those can disrupt hormones and metabolism, digestion, all of that. The goal is to get fats from whole food sources, not processed oils or excessive saturated fats. So, what is it going to look like to add healthy fats without overdoing it? Healthy fats should make up about 5 to 10% of your plate. Fats are important, but they don't need to take over your meals. Why? Because fatty foods are extremely calorie dense foods. They don't need to be half your plate. If you were following these keto and carnivore, they would be. So you're automatically eating foods that are much higher in caloric density than your fruit and your vegetables. So 5 to 10% of your plate. We're going to talk about balanced plates. I said that on Wednesday. So add avocado, a quarter of an avocado to toast, to a piece of toast, to salads, to smoothies. We're not talking about the whole avocado, even though that is a unprocessed whole food. We don't need that much fat. And that is definitely not going to work with us if we are trying to lose weight, right? If you're using a lot of commercially produced salad dressings, always going to be better using olive oil, maybe mixed with some balsamic vinegar instead of those processed dressings, right? Include nuts and seeds in meals as a garnish and snacks. Add flax seeds or chia to oatmeal or yogurt. Making your dressings, that is a huge difference. Looking at the labels on your any condiments, because not only added sugars but saturated fats. Now, let's be super duper clear. Fat alone does not cause weight gain. It's about the overall balance of your diet, and it's about in what quantities are you eating it. I have talked to plant-based people who are eating like whole avocados at 1 or 2 meals a day, and that in itself is troublesome if you're trying to lose weight, because those avocados, again, it's probably the best example. We don't need to eat them in that high of amounts. Okay. So what I would love for you to look at today, your exercise, your challenge, your homework is, what do your healthy fats look like? Is it 5 to 10% of your plate? Or have you been avoiding fats? Another place to get some good healthy fats is nut butters, right? Sunflower butter. I don't know how I forgot to mention those. Sunflower butter, peanut butter, cashew butter, as long as they are nuts only ingredients in there, no added sugars, no added, the sunflower butter, a lot of them have added oils, added sugars, and I actually stay away from added salt ones because I'm just super sensitive to sodium. But that is a great way to add some healthy fat, right? Have an apple for a snack, smear some nut butter on there. You're going to get a little bit of protein and you're going to get some healthy fat, and that's going to make that keep you full for longer, which we're going to be talking about again on Wednesday. But have you been avoiding the fat? Right? Because the diet industry has just beaten it into submission into our heads that we should fear fat, right? When everything came out, what was that? The 90s, the late 90s, right? The fat-free era. And then what were they doing? They were putting sugar in everything to make it more palatable. Fat is one of the things that makes food taste good, and it gives you that feeling of satiation. And so when they, like Snackwells, when they made all these fat-free snacks, they had to add something. So what did they add? They added sugar so that you would like the way it tastes. And then we ran into the sugar-free, like diabetes and obesity issues because of all the added sugars. Oh my God, it's just our food industry. It's just a mess. So I would love to hear from you. What is your favorite healthy fat source? And is fat something that you struggle with, again, wrapping your brain around? So if you're feeling hungry all the time, if you're struggling with these hormonal shifts, if you're not sure if your nutrition is working with you or against you, excuse me, let's chat. Don't forget, I offer these free consultations so we can map out a plan tailored to you. Oh my goodness, down the wrong side. Tomorrow, we're going to be talking about sleep. Because why? Because if you're not getting sleep, nothing else is working as well as it should. But please do this work on fat, because if you are the normal woman that exists in this country, you probably struggle around adding fat to your plates. And let's get you through that, because it makes a huge difference in how you feel. All right, you guys, have a good rest of the day.